The five unexplained phenomena of the Battle of Marathon, the Greeks against the Persians. They did not believe that they would win because no other country, no other nation ever won against the Persians. Of course, it's a prophecy in the Holy Bible, the Old Testament. Blessed is the nation that wins against the Persians, the Medes. And there was only one nation that did that. That was the Greeks. Otherwise, the whole of Europe would be speaking Persian today. So, this is the battle that the men of Athens, the Athenians, fought against the Persians. It's not the Greeks, just the Athenians. They asked Spartans for their alliance, but the Spartans had their Rosh Hashanah. It was the beginning of September. So the Spartans came 2 days after the Battle of Marathon was over. Now, the historic Battle of the Marathon, as the Greek cities in what is today the western coast of Turkey, Ionia, which included large centers such as Miletus and Halikarnassos, could not maintain their independence from Persia, and they came under the rule of the Persian Empire in the middle of the 6th century. In 499 BC, the Greeks of the Ionian city started the Ionian Revolt, and Athens, together with the island of Evia and Eretria, moved to their aid. In 490 BC, the Persian king Darius I, having suppressed the revolt of the Ionian cities since 494 BC, sent his fleet to punish the two cities. The Persian army destroyed Eretria and landed in Attica, which is the greater province where Athens is found. But the Battle of Marathon was defeated by the Athenians and others under General Miltiades. Now, there were 10 boroughs in Athens, and each borough gave 1,000 soldiers. And also some people from about an hour's car ride today north from Athens, Plataeis, they sent another 1,000 because the Athenians in the past had helped them, so they sent another 1,000 warriors or police to assist the Athenians. Now, they sent a runner to Sparta. It's the same runner who did the marathon run to Athens a couple of days later. So they sent a runner to Sparta to ask for help, but they said, we can't come because it was their Rosh Hashanah. Now, I'm saying Rosh Hashanah on purpose because of the fact that the Spartans were, as we read in the Old Testament, the book of the Maccabees, they basically were Hebrews. Okay, and they, if you should read the book of the Maccabees because they sent a letter to the Maccabees from Sparta saying, we have a document that states we are children of Abraham. Whichever you have is ours, and whatever we have is yours. Now, in the lineup in the battle, 11,000 Greeks against 100,000 Persians. General Miltiades' plan was to engage the Persian infantry as soon as possible to avoid casualties from the enemy archers. Every night before the battle, the Greeks shortened the distance between the two fronts, and on the day of the battle, they had reached a distance of about 8 stadiums, that's about 1,480 meters. Callimachus was placed in charge of the right end, and then the 10 tribes with the Plataeans, that's, as we said, 11,000 Greeks, being at the left end. Miltiades strengthened the front so that the right and left horns were strong, while weakening the center. In other words, he was going to fake a weak center so that he would encircle the Persians from behind. So he lengthened the fronts so the right and left horns were strong, weakened the center. The Greeks charged against the Persians quickly, running in the last yards, probably taking the Persians by surprise. The ferocity of the conflict gave advantage to the strong ends. The battle was inconclusive for some time until the two Persian wings collapsed and fled. In the center, where the elite forces were the Persians and the Sakas of the Greek formation broke up and retreated, but the flanking units turned back and attacked the Persian center, encircling them. A fierce battle followed, and finally the Persians fled towards Schinia, that's at the beach, that is, where their ships were. Many Persians fell into the water of the marsh and drowned. The battle continued at Schinia, the beach, that is, and as the Persians tried to escape, Callimachus, the general, and General Stesilas and Cinairas, the brother of Aeschylus, died there. The Athenians managed to capture 7 ships. The battle, though, was not over. The dead Persians are estimated by Herodotus to be around 6,400, while the Greeks had only lost 192. After their victory, the messenger was sent to announce it to Athens, who collapsed after arriving from fatigue. Now, why did the runner have to go to Athens? He had to run to Athens to say, we have won in Marathon, but the Persian navy's coming towards Piraeus. And then he collapsed. Now, why did he have to do that? Because all of the Athenians had emptied Athens and the surrounding areas to go and fight in Marathon. So Athens was left unguarded. Okay, so that's why right after the Athenians won the war in Marathon, they had an 8-hour march from Marathon along the road, the ocean road, towards Athens and Piraeus in full armor, okay, carrying their shield and their spears. Now, inexplicable first, what happened? According to Herodotus, the Battle of Marathon took place on a plain. It's not related to any other battle in Greece, such as with the Battle of Thermopylae, which was close. At Marathon, the plain allowed the whole Persian army to deploy as it did. That is, the Greeks chose to face the Persians head-on and with the full range of their power, which would have been a serious disadvantage for them. But why did they choose this way, showing the opponent that they despised his power and that they were sure of their victory? Inexplicable second. According to Xenophon, on the field of battle, the Persians deployed to a depth of 30 men in the center of their line. Here, attention is not calculated at the edges of the Persians who were weak. With less depth, we take it as an equal amount. This gave a troop deployment of 100,000 men, who were there about 3,300 meters. On the other hand, the Greeks only had 11,000 in order to be able to put up an equal front against the Persians, so it's basically about 1 to 10. Their depth had to be 3 men deep, or something, not counting that they had strengthened their edges, which would have given a shorter length. From history, we know that the front of the Greeks was 1,600 meters, hence about 6 men deep in equal formation. So from the above, it follows that there were 850 meters left on one side and 850 meters left on the other side of the Persian front, where they would stand and do nothing. The question is, if things turned out like this, why didn't this army of 850 meters on one side and 850 meters on the other side move in a circle to trap the Greeks like a deadly tongue? Unexplained third. In the works of Herodotus and Pausanias, we have the presence of a man unknown to the Greeks who appeared unannounced. He was taller at the time than people of the time. He wore a strange outfit that looked like a farmer and not a warrior, and he held a weapon that looked like a plow handle, which he pointed at the Persians and decimated them. Later, the Greeks asked for information about this person from the oracle of Delphi, and the priests named him Aeschylus. And it happened, it says, quote, and it happened, as they say, a man in battle is the kind, and the woman is a peasant. This one of the barbarians, having slain many, a plowman after his work is invisible, a Romanus and Athenians, but the god did not use anything for him. Aeschylus elected as hero, end quote. This is from Pausanias. I believe he could have been and I'll tell you why. He could have been an angel of God, and I'll tell you why. This is exactly what we read in the Old Testament in the book of Maccabees, where giant light angels were behind the Maccabees. Now, it could have been that this Echetlaus had a type of a laser sword of some kind. Now, this man was advancing on the field of battle and blasting the Persians with his weapon at incredible speed. Also, Herodotus tells us that the Athenian soldier Epitulus, the son of Kyphagoras, while fighting bravely breast to breast, suddenly lost his sight in both eyes, although nothing had touched him, neither spear nor sword nor bow arrow. Continuing, Herodotus states that Epitulus tells of seeing this large hoplite, the soldier, whose beard covered his entire shield, and that this apparition held in his hand a very bright weapon. He passed right by him, killing Persian opponents, and this scene was the last that the Epitulus saw, because from some excessive brightness he was blinded. This shows that the weapon that Echetlaus wielded dealt lethal blows from a distance without touching people, whereas all weapons of the time had to be at least touching you. So who was this man? Where did he come from? What kind of devastating weapon for his opponents was he holding? Could it be the lightning rod of Zeus that Alexander the Great was supposed to have? This contraption that was supposedly given to him by an extraterrestrial from Hyperborea. Now, the next fourth, unexplained fourth. Throughout the preparation of the battle, until the day of the conflict arrived, the Greeks moved in the evening hours so that their movement would not be visible towards the front of the Persians, and until the day of the battle. Herodotus tells us that they reached 8 stadia from the Persian camp. Hence, as we see above, that's about 1,480 meters. The reason they did this was that the Greeks knew that the Persians had a fixed tactic before the final clash, and when the enemy came towards them, they would shoot a volley of 2 to 3 arrows from their archers. So the Greeks, with these evening approaches movements, tried to reduce the distance from the Persians and therefore their losses. The questions that arise is how the Greeks managed to approach the Persians on the battlefield without having serious losses from the volley of arrows, as during the entire battle only 192 Greeks were killed. Is it that the Persians did not know a sign? They could not achieve them for other reasons, or that they did not have time to do so? The unexplained fifth. The Battle of Marathon began at 5:30 in the morning, and the Persian generals ordered a retreat at 8 in the morning. Hence, just 2.5 hours after the start of the battle. The strange thing is that everything that happened in such a short period of time. 6,400 Persians, they were decimated by a Greek army numbering 1/10 of their own strength, with terrific speed and efficiency. How is it possible that such a thing happened in such a short period of time? There are many unexplained phenomena in the Battle of Marathon, but all these questions above, I think I have the impression that they will never be answered with 100% certainty. One thing is certain: the Greeks took part in the Battle of Marathon, and for the Greek, nothing is wrong, nothing is impossible. Now, I've translated this for you from a Greek article, but because of the fact that I was once trying to write a film script on the Battle of Marathon, that's before the 300 came out, I did research on this. What happened after they won? Okay, they had to send a runner to Athens, and the runner was to go and say that they won at the Battle of Marathon, but that the Persian ships had left and they were coming around towards the port of Piraeus, which is the Athens fort. So the remaining 11,000 soldiers of the Athenians had to march 8 hours from, the battle was over at about 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30 in the morning. Let's say they left at 9 o'clock. This was the beginning of September, at this point in time, just as we are today, maybe a little bit later. So they had to march fully armored 8 hours towards Piraeus, and they took the basically the road that the marathon runners run in Athens, okay, about 42 kilometers. And they had to go there because they had to stand online to protect Athens from the sea, from Piraeus. And Darius was there, and his his admirals were asking him, should we attack? And he wasn't answering them. And at that point in time, I would imagine that the sight of the armored bronze armor of the Athenians, which were being lit by the western sun, made them blazing or glaring. When the sun is hitting this bronze mass of soldiers there, 11,000 of them. The Persian general said, "No, we're leaving. One defeat is enough for me today. I don't want to face two defeats." So they left. Okay, that's what happened. So I've translated this for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.